Greetings, my vlog friends. I was just looking at, in order to get their PRO services, their publishing rights organization services, I am in the process of signing up with CD Baby because they offer this blanket coverage. And while I was there, I saw that they who knows, I had the opportunity to make an album cover for my album, and I'm putting 69 songs on it so far because each album gets blanket coverage for the same price, and I'll figure it all out later. But basically, it's besides, I don't know how that led me to Bill and Ted, which I totally love, but it just seems stupid as hell. I found just the silliest picture. Man, I was really strung out, and I listed, I don't know why, I don't know what I was thinking. I listed all the drugs I was on at the time, and then this is like in 2000, the early 2000s anyway. It's a picture I took in the middle of the night one time for some reason that is unclear to me still. And but anyway, it looked colorful, and I was just going to put just leave it blank or generic thing, you know, but I've done so many graphics jobs, mastering albums. My company, I did CD mastering, which led me to CD manufacturing, because so many people I would finish their CD master, and they would not know what to do. So I started a company that would take their master and manufacture it, and then that led me to doing CD graphics, because nobody knew how to do the technical side of the artistic layout as well as the art. So I've done hundreds and hundreds of it was a company kind of like disc makers, but higher quality, let's say, a lot higher quality, and good money and a lot of fun, and I made a lot of money doing it. And mainly it was a mastering lab, but I started sub companies that did CD graphics and manufacturing. So anyway, I've had a lot of experience in all of this. And then it turns out, somehow I got on Bill and Ted. I need to set Hal up, at least get him going, because lately each operation's been taking like an hour. I need to redo them. I'm just getting up to, and by the way, if you're new to my vlog, welcome, but you should probably know this this may be totally excellent. Dudes, excellent. It may go somewhere and just be awesome, and it may not, and it may last 2.5 minutes, or as long as the camera battery, or it might be a full hour, you know. I know one guy, and I do this too, he posted, oh, I like this vlog because it's something less, or not vlog, just I'll watch this video of yours because it's less than 40 minutes. And, oh man, I hate when that happens. I gotta wait for that one to finish out. Anyway, you know, I get into that thing on YouTube where I'm watching stuff, and it's like, man, I want to watch this, but it's not going fast enough. And I believe YouTube actually does offer the ability to play videos back, like double speed and so on. Somewhere in there I've seen it. I don't do it, although when I used to do a lot of film and video editing, I can watch a movie in double time on one monitor. Like I would be editing over here, I could watch on one monitor in double time, and usually in a window, you know, a movie while editing another one over here, and sometimes I'd watch 2 movies over here while editing another one. And then, sometimes you got to turn it off, but a lot of times you're just executing a sort of a playlist or an EDL, an edit decision list. But yeah, I can watch a movie in double time and laugh and cry at the proper cues. I've sort of learned how to take in all that information quick. Anyway, my point is, when it gets frustrating, you think videos are way too long on YouTube, what I find for me is that my head is not in the right place at the time. This is best used like FM radio kind of a thing. I'm going to talk probably some about addiction and some about, I wanted to talk a little bit about, oh man, don't do that again. This will definitely take an hour, not an hour, but like 10-15 minutes for that operation. Addiction, chronic pain, and depression, because that's been something that's sort of, the 3 go hand in hand, and it's been something that's really defined my life. And I'll probably get into the fun stuff, like how I've spent like nearly 3 years of my life in rehab and psychiatric facilities, and for the treatment of those 3 things, really, like almost 3 years, I think. I've been in like 33 times. Now, part of that is the cops nailed me a couple of times, like 3 or 4 times. In LA, we call it 5150, where what I was doing wasn't illegal, it wasn't wrong legally, but it just wasn't quite right, one of those deals. So the cops nailed me and threw me in psych facilities 3 or 4 times. I mean, I was building a radar receiving array on top of my house at 3 in the morning in camouflage with like paint, camo paint on my tiger stripe on my face. For some reason, I'd been watching Apocalypse Now, and I wanted to listen to the universe at 3 a.m. Not a great idea. And I was completely wiped out on the prescription medications at the time. I was a morphine addict for about a decade, as well as Xanax and Valium. That's kind of what that little album cover I did here is from, and it's I called the album 69 I was just making up crap, because first of all, CD Baby is sort of considered, if you've been in the industry, I'm going to go outside. If you've been seriously in the industry, it's sort of an insult and a joke, especially to somebody like me who's sort of worked and been in the highest levels. And but it wasn't, at that time, it wasn't appropriate or ethical for me to sort of go, hey, here's my album, it's me. I had to put, my stuff aside, and I did for a long, long time, working in the recording industry. So I've had dealings with all 4 major labels that are interested in my project. I'm not going to go into that much. And then there's 4 major labels, and then they have sub-labels under them, and I'm looking for a home for it. Because, it's a professional project, and it sounds real good. But I just discovered that, I was writing this Italian girl that watches my vlog this morning, and I said something about my album cover. It's all silly. I seriously doubt I sell a single copy. Nobody does on CD Baby. It's rare for somebody to sell something over there. It's really just, like I said, to get coverage. I don't want to play games with doing, spending countless hours doing a song and video. The Supertramp thing, they're on A&M. So are all of Bill and Ted songs on that movie. I just noticed. I didn't know that when I was there as a development producer. Oh, that's going to get really hot. My studio used to be right next door to A&M Records, and I was so busy, I got the gig somehow, and I just didn't. It went on for like 12, 15 years, mostly on, as well as other major labels. developing and producing stuff. I mean, for this, I actually live here and produce all my stuff here, and I've had a lot of practice at it, but it's a disaster. By the way, if you use computers, get a battery backup. Everything I have runs off this battery. If the power goes out, it kicks on in nano or picoseconds, and it regulates the power 24/7. Your computer gear will be happier, last years longer, and if you leave it on 24/7. The hardest thing for an electronic device to ever have happen is have it kicked on and off with sudden surges. But the battery backups act as a power I wouldn't turn a computer on without them. As a power regulator, better than any surge suppressor ever. The power goes, there's it's getting pretty dark out, huh? It says, let's say this is the power, this is the battery, and here's the power coming in. The power box makes sure that the power is at 110 volts at 60 cycles at 15 amps. Power comes in. It can't be anything other than perfect when it comes out over here. If you just plug directly into your computer, you're getting all kinds of surges and sags. And the battery backup prevents the brownouts too, so your stuff lasts longer, it works better, and it lasts years longer. It's really dark out, probably too dark. Doesn't matter. Nobody wants to see me anyway. Some people listen to them, so I do. Oh, haters. I haven't capped off a single topic yet. By the way, if you've lasted this long, which these are good like FM radio, but the way I ended up here and in all the hospitals and stuff, I have a rare neurological disease called trigeminal neuralgia. What? Somebody's playing that is a front pickup on a Strat, white, with a crate amp with a flange built in on the amp, and he's in that garage over there from the close echo. So anyway, I can tell you, I hear stuff on the radio when you work in studios a lot. I can tell you what room it was used, of the mic selection, what mics were used, even what they have 10 SM57s. I can tell you which 57 was used on the on the stair, because you get there. So anyway, I have this disease, and I ended up having chronic pain. That's what I wanted to talk about. For years and years, which got me, I don't have my right glasses really, but chronic pain, addiction, and depression go hand in hand, and if you have one of those, you're hundreds of times more likely to have the others. Did you know that if you have depression, you're much more likely to have chronic pain, which causes depression? And both of those, any of those, they're cofactors, they're coefficients. So they're coefficients, but they're actually like multiplying coefficients, multipliers. Meaning that if you have one, you're much more likely to have both the others. So my favorite place. That's kind of weird that if you have depression, you're much more likely to be a drug addict. And if you have chronic pain, you're much more likely to be a drug addict. And if you have addiction, you're much more likely to have depression and chronic pain. So it's kind of a really hard loop to get out of. I spent years and years, I would check in to try to get help for my depression, and they would give me morphine, for my chronic pain. And what I didn't understand for so many years was that, it's sort of a no-brainer, is that my addiction was feeding my depression. And what I found lately, I don't take any drugs or alcohol. And what I found lately, not even prescription, I take aspirin a lot, which is sort of a miracle drug, helps your circulation, but it has its dangers. It took me a long time to realize that the use of any central nervous system depressant drug, and if you think about depression, it's when your body's really in part a large electronic circuit, and you can actually measure the voltage in it, and anything that adds impedance, which is in electronics something that inhibits the flow of voltage, these drugs add kind of an impedance to a chemical impedance to your electronic system, keeping it from flowing. So it's a no-brainer, really. I mean, drugs cause depression, and because your circuitry's not working properly. So my depression is better now. Oh, that light kicked on since I quit, and I was clean and sober for the bulk of my career, like 21 years. But I didn't drink for 21 years. Then about the last 5 years of my sobriety, I started using. I was in so much pain, I started let doctors put me on morphine, and that led me to that. And I would get off of morphine, and I mean, not only morphine, but an opiate is an opiate. So, whether it's the mildest, like a Tylenol 3 codeine, or heroin, it still has an opiate derivative, whether it's synthetic or naturally occurring from poppies. Same difference, same results. You get addicted to it physically. And so I would, it's a double whammy, because I would be like, I'm like, well, I was thinking at the time, I cannot stand being a drug addict anymore on prescription drugs, but I couldn't get out of bed without it after a few years, and you literally can't. And so I would stop taking them on my own at home a lot, which is dangerous. I needed to go to at the level I was at, I needed to go to a emergency room and tell them I'm in trouble, which I did at the end a lot. But I would quit taking them, and the pain would come back, the physical pain, and not a little. There's a bounce back phenomenon where, a couple of messages, a couple of people subscribed. Usually like one every few minutes somebody subs me. Is Hal done with that yet? I'm not going to show him. Yes, he is. Because I do use commercial software, but I also use some software I've written, and I don't want to show exactly how it was done and how it works. So I would get clean at home, and I would think, then the physical pain would come back, and then you're sick if you don't take it when you're a narcotics addict. Another one. Anyway, when you're a narcotics addict, the sickness is kind of like the flu, except multiply the worst flu you've ever had by about 1 billion, and you have narcotics withdrawal. And so that was something that I would go, oh, I can't be sick another week. And when I finally did get off morphine, heavy usage, the withdrawal went on for the hard part of it, vomiting every day, for about 90 days. I've been clean off of morphine and Xanax and Valium, all the benzos and the fun stuff, for about 3 years again now. And it took every bit of the first 2 years to get to come down to any semblance of reality and making sense of the world, you know. And now that I'm back, it's sort of like, oh my God, like that picture of this album cover. It's like, dude, what were you thinking, you know? It fits the project. But, yeah, you know, anyway, those things kept driving me back. Well, if I'm never going to feel any better, if things are never going to make sense again, I might as well just use again. You know, I got the fuckets. And, so there's that. And the use, as stated, the use of the drugs cause depression. And then if you're in chronic pain, it causes both of the depression and the drug use. So they go back and forth. You know, I've said that, but that's kind of weird to understand. But, you know, none in the early years of bouncing in and out of psych hospitals, and I've been in them a lot and put myself in them, been put in them, I was just so lost, you know. I can't believe how you can get so lost, you know. But there should have been, and there should be more education on this. There should have been a doctor at some point that said, oh, so you have severe depression and you have this chronic pain issue. So you're probably in this psych facility because, you know, do you happen to be a drug addict and have been, you know, alcoholic addict your entire life? Like that, you know, nobody did. They were just like, oh, well, you got depression. Here's your morphine. So finally I had to start, and all rehabs are dual diagnosis facilities nowadays. Why? So they can collect the maximum money. They can get you in there under the pretense of treating your psych disorder, because a lot of insurances don't cover addiction and alcoholism. So they set up, and they do go hand in hand a lot. But anyway, so if you go into rehab ever, I can guarantee it's a dual diagnosis facility, psychiatric and drug, and usually treated in the same place at the same time on the same floor in the same wing, sometimes separate. But the reason they do that is, where am I at? 24, is that they can get you in there, and they can say, well, you have a psych problem, and the insurance will pay for that. And while you're there, a lot of places understand that those things go hand in hand. So anyway, it's kind of a big game. The other problem with the world, and especially the Medicare, Medicaid system, is all the people on those, and I've been privy to all this information for a lot of different reasons, but if you kind of overhear, a lot of the people in there are on Medicare and Medicaid, and being sort of a computer field, like medical billing, anything computers, I've worked in it, consulted in it for major companies, 3M, 3Com, Motorola, AT&T, Porsche, the list goes on. Before I lived here, I was a successful guy in a lot of different areas. Although, you know what? If somebody were to come to the door, and I'm jumping around, I'll get back to that in a second, but if somebody were to come to the door with a briefcase with $100 million, in which you can't fit $100 million in a briefcase, let's say $1 million, that's not going to cure me of this disease I have. It's not going to make things instantly better, and money is a hassle. I've had big briefcases full of money, not bragging, literally. It's just a thing that happens. It brings all kinds of problems. First of all, my girlfriend and I once had several $100,000 in cash around the house that I had collected from clients for like a year or two who paid in cash. I would give discounts to. So finally I opened the safe and I met her in rehab. We were both heavily medicated. But I said, okay, I'm going to open the safe, and you can have as much of this money as you can spend on except cars and shit. I put a limit on it, like I can't remember, 3 to 5 grand. Anyway, as much as you can spend per day, but you have to buy stuff that's useful that we're going to use around the house, and talk to me about it or whatever. So for the first like 10 days, she managed to this is how far out we were. She managed to make it to Target, and she didn't drive, and buy like the boxes of stuff she never opened. And then then she missed a day. Then pretty soon it became like we were laying in bed watching movies, basically stoned on medications, but med and rehab, both of us just out, just gotten out. And anyway, after like 10 days, we were laying in bed watching a movie that was delivered from Netflix, so we didn't have to go out. We didn't leave for like 2 or 3 years, that apartment. Much, if at all. I really didn't. I had a studio built in there. But I was like, don't you want to go spend some money today? And she goes, no, you know what? I'm really bored with that. Because her best thinking, because she could only get to Target, and they only had so much, and she had boxes of stuff never opened. So did I. Some of the stuff that I have here, especially guitars and stuff, I have a bunch of them. I had never played, never even dicked with. Liked it at the store or ordered it, looked at it, fooled around with it, never used it. I still have a bunch I've never even played. Some I've had all my life, though. But so that money gets boring. So anyway, this isn't about money for me at all. My family has some kind of oil deal with stuff, and they're bitching at each other, I'm sure, about mineral rights, and it could be millions of dollars that I'm entitled. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. This is about, all right, what is this about? It's sort of about doing absolutely the best work you can, being left alone to do that, and sort of honoring and the songs that I grew up with, and kind of saying goodbye to them in a way, and thanking them, and trying to send them off with a new life. But as far as being an artist in music, where I come from, I grew up in a situation on a ranch in rural Missouri. So to take an artist, my family and people around, they never really took music or art seriously. And in fact, it was kind of a sissy joke type thing or something. And they tended to make you kind of feel bad about the fact that you're an artist or a musician. And then when I went to Los Angeles, I realized, like, hey, there's money in this. And then I started making a lot of money doing it. And then suddenly I met a lot of grown, intelligent people, world-class educations, who were totally, we're kind of like mad scientists in the studios there. That's not a bunch of drug addicts. It's highly trained scientific minds, usually, not always. People doing these mixes and these films and stuff. And, grown men, like, totally getting into stuff, but, like, there was a certain validity to it. And it just seemed so, growing up, that just seemed so unrealistic, that anything like that I would ever meet anybody famous. I have tons of people who are famous as friends, first name basis. It kind of gets to you think all that stuff's impossible and that you'll never meet anybody. Growing up, I sure did. I thought, well, I'll never meet anybody famous and blah, blah, blah. But then when it starts happening, and it happens a lot, it just becomes like a daily deal you don't pay attention to. But I went back. I mentioned my daughter in another vlog, and I'd forgotten that a couple of times I tried to make contact with her, and I've only seen her in person. She was like 16 once, and I went back home, and I don't know, I could just see. So I only got to see her for like it was a big dramatic deal that I realized, oh, I don't have time for this. I didn't realize she's a teenage girl, and this is big and dramatic for her, and I wanted to, sort of meet her anyway. I could just see by the look on her and her friends' faces, they didn't believe anything I was talking about. My company had gotten a government contract, and as crazy as it sounds, I actually did some work for those secret intelligence agencies, computer consulting and networking, and I just finished with that, and here I am, a guy. It did seem crazy. I kind of showed up and like, well, yeah, I'm your dad, and I work for the CIA. I didn't word it that way. I think it might have came out that way, but I could see the look of disbelief on their faces. But that kind of thing happens all the time in major cities and in the government. There's all kinds of government contracts, and I was never privy to any, secret info. Well, kind of, yeah. Wait a minute. But mainly I was the lowest or medium bidder or whatever, the most suitable bidder on a job that needed to be done in the computer field. And these agencies use outside people all the time. Look at the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. They have contractors fulfilling all this shit. So yeah, that's something I've actually done. I have worked for the CIA. But, not like, but yeah, anyway, I could just see the look of disbelief on her face, and I don't even know if I said it that way, but it came out that way, and it reminds me of Chevy Chase, that movie, Vacation or whatever, where he's like, he's trying to pick up Christy Brinkley on the road with his family, and he's like, oh, she said, oh, you probably work for the CIA too, and he goes, no, I don't work for the CIA. No, I used to. But, I think I mentioned that to my brother one time, like, hey, I did like this government contracting kind of thing where I basically was handling audio files in a certain way, batching them, batch processing them at my lab. And translating and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going long, but I think my point there is that, and I'll try to end around 40 or 37, but is that in life, when you get into the right arena and the right environment, certain things will happen to you, and it seems really big, and wow, like all these engineers that I came up with and producers are now fucking legends now, and believe me, I know some of these people personally, and it's gotten way out of hand with who people consider legends as producers and engineers, even artists I know. The legend and all this bullshit gets so blown up. It's just people, man. And they're selling you these things. They want it to become legendary to make money. But so much stuff, it seems huge and legendary when it's like just ordinary stuff, And believe me, these people most of them are, the engineers and producers, a lot of them are epic fucking douchebags one guy has like his own, he got lucky with a hit album for Green Day. He's got his own fucking plugins with waves and like names and the CLA this and that's. Like, dude, you're a fucking douchebag who got lucky anyway. My point is sometimes, and a lot, until you get out in the big, wider world and experience stuff, everything seems really epic, but it's really sort of not. It's just stuff. And it's been weird for me to kind of come back amongst people who don't, work in the music, film, or computer industry, and then try to, especially in the position I'm in, and try to relate to them. Like, oh yeah, I've, met, shook hands, and talked to Steve Jobs, and actually know him on a first name basis. No, they don't believe a fucking word I say. That was really sad about Steve too, man. His whole everything about the Macs, being a Macintosh hardware, software engineer, programmer, all of this stuff, and I barely knew him, but I did know him a little. But being in the computer field and having that knowledge early on is what got my career going and started. So anyway, I think that we sort of deify or make things epic that really aren't a lot, and I'm beginning to notice that a lot on the net. It's like people who shouldn't be considered legendary or epic are considered legendary and epic, and it's sort of a friend of mine said something about bullshit in the music industry and the film industry, and it's all bullshit kind of a thing. And Steve Shore, music manager, handled Janis Joplin, worked with Simzik from the Doors. He friend of mine also, Janis Joplin, the Doors. He didn't. Simzik managed the Doors, but somehow he worked for Bill Simzik, I believe. And anyway, he said, we were talking about artist management one day, and he said, the death of your artist, for your job is to keep them alive. I guess he felt pretty bad about some of the, well, you think. But he said, your job is to keep them alive first and foremost and serve them. And the artist, your job is to keep them from buying their own bullshit. In other words, this idea that they're some kind of epic fucking legend. He said, your job is to keep them from buying their own bullshit, because it's all bullshit. It's a sales job. So I got a bunch of emails here, and I may cover this song. Actually, it's so rockin' wicked, Bill and Ted. So I'll do that. The B&T, Bill and Ted. Oh, come on. In the immortal words of the Sex Pistols, buy my album and make me a millionaire. Peace out, motherfuckers.